Welcome to the Marvel Cinematic University podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Canton III, and we're taking a little bit of a deviation. We don't have any Marvel content till the end of the month with What If coming out December 22nd through December 30th. 8 straight days of What If episodes. That's very interesting, but we'll get to that another time. Listen, any time that I can talk a little wrestling on this show, I will take the opportunity to do so. And this past weekend, we had a lot of crazy shit happen in the world of professional wrestling. The funny thing is, originally, I did not have Cam here to talk about any of this. We were going to talk about his article in The Ringer about Jey Uso. His name is Cameron Hawkins. He writes for at the aforementioned Ringer. Cam, how you doing, bro?
Doing all right, man. Thank you for having me. As always, always fun to be on here with a very smart brother. I appreciate it. So yeah, man. Thank you for having me for sure.
Oh man, you're too kind. You are too kind. So yes, we will get anybody listening and watching this right now. We will get to the CM Punk stuff later in the show. I promise. We will talk plenty of CM Punk, but I wanted to start with Jey Uso, and he still figured pretty prominently into last night's Monday Night Raw, as we found out that he will be challenging Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship next week, and he is smack dab in the middle of the Drew McIntyre Seth Rollins situation. And also on top of that, he had a nice little meeting with Randy Orton backstage that was really cool. The returning Randy Orton, another thing that happened this weekend.
Yeah.
And I guess I will start here, Cam. So you write this article, tremendous job, by the way. And everything that Jey has gone through over the past 3 years to this point, from the pandemic, challenging Roman Reigns in 2020, everything that he's gone through with the bloodline. I thought the thing that stood out to me reading your piece was I could get the sense of relating to Jey in that this journey of his was something that kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's how life works. So I wanted to get your viewpoint as you put this story together. And even now, as we see his story is still evolving and the pops that he's getting, the way that he got the crowd jumping all the time, every time he comes out, like all of that encompassing Jey. How did you put all of that into perspective in the way that you did?
I think, him talking about basically relearning this job that he's already great at was really interesting to me. I talked to Carmelo Hayes, I guess over a year ago now, and, he was already all world independent wrestler, can do all the moves, but he was like, listen, I needed NXT because I didn't know where to look on the camera. I didn't know how to play to the crowd. Like, I was just out there wrestling, And so with somebody like Jey, who has been through WWE system, but was doing in ways, I don't want to be like misconstrued here, but he's kind of doing half of the work sometimes because he is a tag partner, right? But now it's really just him, and you have to emote. You have to play to the crowd. You have to fill this promo time. You have to make these gestures. Like, you have to really sell yourself. So listening to him talk about relearning that was really interesting to me. It hit home for me because, this whole podcast and the media thing is something that I had been doing for, almost 10 years, like with my best friend, and then I don't get that opportunity anymore. So I had to figure out how to do this on my own, in the last 4 years or so, and really make it work like that. So yeah, I really felt where he was coming from. And, it's weird to say, like, you can hear the pain in what somebody's saying, but it was very much that. He was like, no, like, there are dark times when I'm not around my family and my brothers and my cousins that I don't necessarily like how I feel. And, he talks about, being in those airports, there's already 6 people on the flight, but at least you used to have 7 when it was you and your brother. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot I could relate to, man. It was part horror story, part coming of age story, right? But
Yeah.
I think he did a very good job of conveying his feelings at that time. And so, me being me, I was like, hey, why don't I write about the Langoliers and Stephen King? Because that's what it made me feel. But yeah, man, like, genuinely, listening to somebody who is a master of their craft have to relearn the job and find a way to maybe be even better is fascinating. And it's all about putting the work in. It was really, really, like, fun to just listen to him.
So I think, based off of everything that you just said there, it fascinates me so much, the coming of age story, because we've now seen that across professional wrestling in a lot of senses late as of late. Guys really coming into their own. We could talk about the MJFs of the world. We could talk about Sami Zayn. All of these people kind of like rising to stardom. And I think the thing about Jay that is so cool is kind of knowing that all of that stuff that you said about the loneliness factor and the not being around your family when you're used to it, that humanity is still there. That's within him, and yet the push to grow and the push to become something bigger and better. And I think there was like a brief story of Jay having his kind of first autograph signing and meet and greet over the
Hmm.
last week or two, and the fact that he didn't know if anybody was going to show up. And
Yeah,
I think that's just, that's just the human part of coming along and not realizing how far you've come. This journey has it's been a hell of a journey for him.
yeah,
And I think the thing that, as you mentioned in the piece at SummerSlam, it's like it hits you. It hits you when you see that moment where he's standing on the top turnbuckle and he's got the crowd going, and this is like what, 50, 60,000 people all in unison.
yeah,
It was really incredible to watch, and I was like, this guy is out of here. He is
yeah.
out of here. So it's really great to see. So in talking to the guy, what was the read that you got off of him as he kind of talked about like different things, like he wants to go after Gunther for the Intercontinental title, talk about wrestling different tag teams. He really has a lot of ideas of how he wants to pursue this growth for himself individually and collectively.
It really for him, it's about setting an example. I think he really does carry the weight of being Rikishi's son, being Rock's cousin, being Roman's cousin. He carries that weight, but not in a way like it's not an albatross. You know what I mean? He carries it proudly, and he wants to continue that legacy. So he was like, we I don't know if you got a chance to listen to like the actual podcast. I did put it out on South Congress, like our entire conversation.
Oh, I
And
have
one
to
thing he
get that
says is
again.
like he said, Cam, we got little Usos coming up 10, 11 years old trying to get into like trying to do what we do. And I tell them like first you got to finish high school, but you got to want it because we worked for it. You know what I mean? Like we worked for it. This is something that's very important to us. Like there's a real pride that comes with everything that they've built. I think he's very aware that, with what his grandfathers did, what his uncles and what his dad did. That's great and that's fantastic. But he realizes that they're on to something else. They're main eventing WrestleManias. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like they are on to something else. And I think he appreciates the weight of that. And so whatever role they have him in, he's ready to go. He was like, Cam, I was backstage in catering. And they came up to me and said, "Hey, you doing this in Roman tonight?" And he's like, "Are you ribbing Muse? Are you ribbing me?" Like he was he was really doing that. So this was really a surprise to him, but it was very much I'm open to the challenge, and this is going to be beneficial for all of us. And then even him talking about Jimmy, like he raves about Jimmy. He's like Jimmy's the funny one. Like Jimmy's the one who never got hurt. Jimmy's and safe in a way that was complimentary. You know what I mean? Like Jimmy's the one who does things the way they should be done. And I asked him, I was like, let's talk dream matches. He was like, yo, FTR's dope. I felt like we didn't get what we needed out of the Hardys. It was just thrown together. Gorillas of Destiny, and it's fun on the podcast too. When he mentions Gorillas of Destiny, I literally say a lot of people think y'all are cousins anyway. And we just start laughing. And he's like, yeah, somewhere down the line, news. But he was like, no, he's like, Young Bucks, whoever, if we're going to do it, we got to come do it in WWE. And people like thought that was so controversial. And I was like, that's what everybody's supposed to say in whatever company they work for.
Of
If you
course.
wrestle out of a 7-Eleven, you're supposed to tell tag teams to come to 7-Eleven and see you. But it was very much like, again, being a master of your craft, knowing where you feel like your talents are going to be maximized, and just there's an enthusiasm to that guy, man. Like it's infectious how enthusiastic he is about what he's doing. He was like, I'm 38. I've been doing this almost 15 years, but I feel he was like, I still feel spry. I still feel light. I feel like I'm at my best. It's like the guy's infectious. He's very charming.
He,
Absolutely.
I mean, I think of the press conference that he and Cody did after they won the tag titles. That was so that was so cool. Just that moment with
Authenticity.
yes,
Authenticity.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. I'll talk to you about that off the air.
Oh, okay. Yes. And I think I mean, just like I had pointed out earlier, that really felt genuine with the way that he was talking to Randy last night. Eh,
Yeah.
that was a great, I thought that was just really cool in the way Randy responded in kind. It's just little things in the character that you see. Him doing the rock spit in the hand thing. There's just a lot of little things that he's added along the way, especially over the last couple of months when he came to
Yeah.
Raw, that's really ingratiated himself to not only the fans, but I think, I mean, it's people are feeding off this energy, man. It's pretty special.
One thing he said, he was like, really? He's like, it's me, it's Kofi, and it's Randy. Like, we're the OGs for real. Like, as far as being in WWE that entire time for like that length of time, he was like, it's really us. You know what I mean? And so I think there is a certain, not that he's not great with everybody, but there is a certain reverence in that conversation, a certain familiarity being around each other so long. But yeah, like I noticed he incorporated yeah, the Rock's like spit slap. He again, he's cutting his shirt shorter to show the abs. Like he's doing a lot, you know what I mean? But he understands that that's, and then like him playing off Rhea is so funny.
Yes.
Like yes, her and her team beat me up every week, but I can't stop looking at that woman. Like yeah, he's fun. He's a lot of fun for sure.
Oh man. So what's something that might have not made that didn't make the cutting room floor, that you left out in your piece that you found interesting
But
about
I
him?
love being right about theories, because I think when I watch teams for a very long time, I think I have a bead on what gets them going. So the first thing I asked him was, to me, on the outside looking in, it looked like the debut of American Alpha lit something under you guys. Like it was different from that point. He was like, no, yes, Oos. Like he was like, it was different for like a lot of teams when they came up, they were hot. He was like, but right there, we started dressing different, we started talking different. He was like, yes, that changed us. And I was like, man, like that's to watch it happen. And that's always kind of something I would like mention here or there on Twitter. It never really got a bunch of traction, but it did feel good being right about that. You know what I mean? Like it changed a lot for him. Of course, there's a reverence for the New Day, that absolutely in there. He
Oh my
really
gosh.
appreciates
Yeah.
what they've done. Um, Pretty much everything else made it, man. Like we talked at length about, he said Sammy's probably one of the best people he's ever met. They're friends in real life, and so Sammy means a lot to him. Being talked a lot about being under the wing of Roman and Heyman, but that kind of made it. But yeah, the American Alpha thing was the one to me, which really like, okay, like this was a different motivating factor for these guys. That's why we got Hell in the Cell, New Day, and Usos. That was the jumping off point. You know
One of
what
the
I mean?
greatest
So
matches of all time,
yeah,
man. For my
yeah.
money.
Absolutely.
Jesus.
He does say forfeiting to the New Day is one of their top 5 moments in their career.
Mm,
He's like, wouldn't be
classic.
no Kofi Mania without us. It was just really fun. But yeah, man. But everything else, a lot of stuff, pretty much everything made it. I think the American Alpha, we decided that that was, while it was important to revisit, it was more focused on the Usos and not Jay. So we kind of left that out. But yeah, just about everything else is in. Again, we got to hear about Gunther. I'm so glad we left that in because man, I want to see that match now. I really want
Yes.
to see that match now. That's exciting. Um, but yeah, yeah, and again, the stuff about the younger generations, because I brought up like Zilla Fatu, I brought up Simone, and he was like, "Man, they got to work, Cam. They got to work. They got to want this. They got to love this. They got to put the work in." And so,
Mm,
yeah, it was just fun listening to him be elder statesman now and have the advice to give to the younger generations. When I remember when they were coming fresh out of college in sweater vests and braids, you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
yeah, it's fun to watch it go full circle.
Man, I remember them with the face paint. Man,
Yeah,
goodness gracious.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
We're going back a ways.
Mhm.
How do you equate now that, I mean, you've been talking to a lot of these guys and gals over the past months to years now, you could now say years plural.
Mhm.
especially like you talking to LA Knight and kind of getting a similar vibe. It's like I'm not supposed to be here, but I'm
Yeah,
here. How do you equate to that? Because that's such an interesting parallel. Because I do think when I read your stuff, there is so much of a there's so much of a genuine passion to it in the way that you kind of weave in everything together. So it
yeah,
makes me feel like, as you mentioned earlier, you trying to come up and trying to figure out things on your own. How do you translate something like that into what you write? And this is speaking
yeah,
of somebody who has to dust off the pen himself at some point.
yeah.
I'm trying to fight through writer's block, so I'm interested to hear about your process.
I think kind of the biggest thing for me, um, these people are so much more interesting than they're made out to be. Like there's real people behind what got them here, right? And so I think with me, especially like with the Carmelo Hayes, it's really easy because even though he's not 19, he's a kid, right? And so with him, you really get to talk about process and what you've learned. With an LA Knight or a Jey Uso, I'm talking about guys my age who are also figuring things out, new things, or getting to this new spot, like this new apex at my age. And so it's easy for me like to write about that because I can talk about, damn, this wasn't supposed to happen, and now here's why it is. Here's what did work. Here's what didn't work. Here's how I felt about that moment. It doesn't get to be super difficult because I feel like I'm telling my own story through somebody else's shoes every time. You know what I mean? I got with my editor Cal on Worldwide Wednesdays with the Ringer, and I was like, I'm LA Knight. Cal, you're LA Knight. Like you guys came and found me at 36. You know what I mean? Like this could have never happened. And nobody would have been worse off. Everybody would have been fine. But this is the thing I was able to do, and the right set of circumstances happened. So with an LA Knight, we can talk about that grind. We can talk about maybe my ego stopped me from getting here as soon as I needed to be, but I belong here. You know what I mean? Like that wasn't super tough to convey because it was right there. And again, with Jay, like I absolutely understand that sense of what everybody sees is unicorns and rainbows. What I go through is different. My process is different, but I understand the value of the work and what it means to not only me but to my family and my friends and everybody else. So, man, I'm stealing money, man. I'm telling my story, remixing it with these guys' anecdotes. You know what I mean? So it just tends to come together, man. Like I got we're working on one for the end of the year. Somebody who's had a really, really great 2023. And again, I don't think it's going to be super difficult because it's about opportunity, it's about process, it's about what makes you tick. And then getting that down to 2,000 words each time, you know?
Mm.
So, yeah, it's, I wish I had some magic formula. Man, I get in front of that Google Doc, I start going. But I tell you what, the J thing with what happened both times, Anthony, both times. I'm talking to LA Knight, and genuinely, I don't think it's going great. I think it's
Mhm.
going fine. He doesn't know me from nobody, so he's not like particularly like hyped for the conversation. But then he tells me about that Michael Jackson remix page on YouTube that he's so into. I literally tell him, you know, you just wrote the story for me, right? Because that's a lot of what he is. He is this throwback who's found ways to incorporate what's new and what's
Mhm.
fresh in a way that the crowd really responds to. It's great. You know, with Jay, what you don't hear, even if you listen to the podcast, I'm talking as soon as we get on the Zoom, I don't have my camera on. I was like, Jay, I don't know if you remember me, but I told you in April in the green room at Wale Mania that you and I were going to tell this story. And he was like, I can't see you. Ooze, turn your camera on. I turned my camera on. He was like, man, Cam, I remember you. You sure did say that, man. Let's go. And so that was, you know,
That's funny.
it's kind of similar with Ricky Starks in that I've been writing this in my head for a year, so it's not going to be difficult to write. And so, you know, me and Jay already having that relationship where I've kicked it with you, your brothers, your cousins, your mom. You know what I mean? Like we've really hung out, and so this is just going to be us kicking it, and I'm going to turn it into what it's supposed to be, and it's going to work.
What was that evening like for you?
Wally Mania was crazy, man. It's my second one. So what was it like? We're at the Novo in LA. Really cool spot. We're back in the green rooms. We're writing out the guest list. Wale's manager is sitting in the green room with me with his phone, picking out names of who's going to be VIP. I'm like, this is so crazy. But we're writing up the list, and then excuse me, Bloodline shows up early. Everybody's real cool. There's daps, hugs, we're walking around with them. Once we kind of do their main stage thing, we're back in the green room. The champagne's going. Everybody's hanging out. We're talking, and so it just became natural. You know what I mean? Like everybody was real cool. Like they showed a lot of love. They showed a lot of love. And then, the next day I see a bunch of the cousins. They're yelling at me in the street. They're like, "What's up on the bottles?" Ooh, like, baby, I don't got no more champagne. I'm out of champagne. What can I do? Right. But then I saw Trinity at the signing the next day. She's dapping me up. So that's like a cool, cool family. So like you sometimes worry about meeting these people who are celebrities and it just being, fake nice. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But nah, man, it was genuine. And so they made the job so easy because there was nothing difficult about it. Let's get some more bottles. Let's get some ice. You can sit down for a minute. Let's kick it. Let's talk. It was great, man. It was a lot of fun. I got really, really drunk. I'm gonna try not to do that this time because I feel like I got a little more work to do. I probably have some family in town. But yeah.
Oh.
It was an amazing time. Me and Solo got really cool after the show. He's like, "Yo, thank you so much for taking care of my family. Ooze, please don't make me laugh in front of these people ever again." I was like, "I got you. My bad. My bad." It was great, man. It was great for real.
That's a
It
great.
was
Oh
great.
man.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's awesome, man. No, man. And before we continue, I gotta say I'm so happy for you and to see you continue to grow. And it's the understanding that the quote unquote grind, as they say, is that you got to put the work in,
Absolutely.
and your dedication to that is noted, and it's appreciated. And I want to continue to see you do these great things. This is awesome. This is awesome for me to see who just discovered you, like, on Twitter a year ago or so. So like it's just like it's almost like that for you thing. Maybe it turned out to be decent in some ways because you see people who follow people adjacent, and then
Hmm.
you find people, and it's been awesome to watch your growth over the past year. And yeah, the Jey Uso story, it's continuing. World title shot on Monday. I can't wait to see what happens. I'm sure one Drew McIntyre will be doing his best to make sure that does not go off without a hitch.
Feel like it's not going to work out the way you want it to. Just kind of suspect that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I know. They was talking about we might get a little Judgment Day interruption.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like if there was any time, we've been teasing this priest cash in for like 5 years now. Um, this might be an opportunity for them to do that. I'm very interested to see what
Yeah.
happens there.
For sure.
But yes, over the weekend, so Survivor Series War Games happens. Fun show. Thought the women's War Games match was awesome. Everybody performed well. The story of Bailey taking all the finishers at the end was pretty awesome. And that whole damage control thing this upcoming week should be a lot of fun to see where that goes. Because she did the little backstage afterwards talking about where's my team at, and we've already seen the cookie crumbs over the last couple of weeks of where that's headed. So we'll see where that goes. And so we get the men's War Games match, and it goes as you in a lot of ways you would expect. Then you get the priest attempted cash in, and of course Randy Orton comes back. Big pops, wonderful moment to see him back. Looks like a completely different person. Like, just Jesus Christ, this man is is 2 times as big as when we saw him 18 months ago. He is jacked. But so then we have that moment. We have the wonderful spots at the end. The RKO off the top of the cage was pretty great. Baby faces go over. You think the show is over, and then you hear Cult of Personality. It's like, wait a minute. For the last few months, everything since CM Punk left AEW has been, there's no way he's coming back. Oh, but no, he is coming back. It's been back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And there he is. Unbelievable. I was shocked. As was everybody else pretty much. Um let's just start here. What is your feeling on that relationship? And I thought Triple H summed it up pretty well in his presser after, where he goes, if you haven't found a way to grow after a decade, then there's definitely a real problem with you as an individual. So I found that part interesting. So as it stands, with Punk, how you feel about this whole situation and how it came together? Also, you're muted.
I feel like the rent is due on the 1st and is late on the 4th. Like, okay, so Anthony, we were leaving. I think we were leaving a restaurant in LA, and we're walking towards the Ring of Honor show. And I don't know what I had going on later, but I had somewhere I had to be Friday night. So I'm like, guys, I gotta go take a nap. I can't go to the Ring of Honor show. But we're outside, and then we just I think I got a text or somebody came up to us who's also a medium was like, yo, Tony's giving Punk his own show. And we were like, what? He's like, Tony's giving Punk his own show. And I was like, that's a terrible idea.
Mm.
That's a terrible idea.
This is Saturday
Because
Collision for folks who are not in the know.
it's a
Yes.
terrible idea because you're not solving the problem. You're separating people who need to be able to work together. Is how I felt about it at the time, right? Collision comes around and Collision is dope. And of course, like I'm a little selfish about it because I felt like Rick really got his shine. But the thing that was great about Collision was it was focused on a very small crew. It was Punk, it was FTR, it was Bullet Club Gold, it was Rick, it was House of Black. All right. And we're going to pit them against each other or against what are right now lesser opponents and let them shine, let them get the mic time. It feels like WCW Saturday Night. I loved it. I really was a fan of it artistically. However, when guys on the other side don't like you and they see you getting your own thing, it's just not going to work. Like eventually it's going to come to a head. And we watched it come to a head, right? And so I'm not saying Punk was right. I'm not saying the elite are right. Like the whole thing's a mess. It's a workplace problem, whatever. But I will say this. Creatively, I thought Punk was putting on a great show. Punk left AEW with one of his best AEW matches. And
Samoa
so
Joe. Yeah.
when you bring him over to a situation where he can't fuck up, like he doesn't have nobody over there has the power to call their own shot. Like Roman Reigns has worked it out to where I understand how valuable I am. I'm going to pick and choose my spots. But that is a 10-year good behavior value thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's
Yeah.
a lot goes into that. Punk don't got that clout. Punk doesn't have that. The infrastructure of WWE right now is so tight that is it a perfect show? No. But too many people are happy and too many people are getting money for him to come in and say, I need to shake this up. Nobody want it shaken up. The people who want it shaken up are watching AEW. You know what I mean? So I think that you have Punk, who is one of these all-time talents, and he absolutely is, but you get him in a situation where, hey, I know you're going to be on your best behavior because we're going to give you a lot of money to do what we feel is necessary. And a lot of money. Like, I don't know dollars and cents, but I know how much money they got right now. So I know he came in there on a fat deal. Like, if he ain't making as much as Seth, I'd be shocked. Right? So, I mean, my biggest thing is, again, things that happen in AEW, of course there are things that are his fault. You can't be fighting your coworkers. However, I feel like that was a situation set up for him to fail from the jump. Like, genuinely set up for him to fail off rip. And, you know, I think this is a situation where if it doesn't work out, he can't blame anybody else. And they know that.
Yes. Yeah. And I think the other thing that came out today, and I wanted to get your perspective on it. This Brian Danielson being on a on a panel of sorts that was in charge of determining whether CM Punk would be fired or not. What's happening over there? What's up with Tony Khan? I'm just curious.
Okay,
What's happening? Yes.
so I'm going to answer this slowly. Um, Brian Danielson has 178 Twitter followers, and I found out today that he follows 178 people on Twitter. I found out today I'm one of them. I have a relationship with his management team, so I want to be very, very judicious when I
Hmm.
say this. I think, me personally,
Hmm.
I think a lot of people back there wear a lot of hats, but I do not think talent should be the final call on somebody keeping their job or not. I think that is very much the job of the boss or people who are designated and trained as HR. That is what I think. Okay. And again, a lot of people back there are wearing a lot of hats. So it's not like a Danielson thing. And as a matter of fact, I think Danielson probably made the right call. Like
Yeah, considering the circumstances.
you can you can't you can't make your boss feel uncomfortable. You
Hmm.
can't do it. Right. I just think that that is very much a call that should have came from the top and should not have been delegated. But again, like, QT just left. QT doesn't like the direction that he thinks creative is going. He thinks they're going more for the wrestling. And I got that right? He thinks they're going more for the wrestling and less storyline, like more like New Japan, he said.
Yeah.
And he wasn't a big fan of that. But QT was doing 92 jobs backstage. And so those are already getting delegated to different people, from what I understand. And so, yeah, man, it's a lot of people wearing a lot of hats. I really wish that Tony would slow down, stop hiring wrestlers, and hire a bunch of non wrestling people to do the non wrestling jobs
Hmm.
and let the
Interesting.
wrestlers wrestle. Like, I really think that should be the case. Because that's what WWE does. Do they have producers? Of course. Producers are in charge of the match. You know what I'm saying? They got a bunch of guys back there who come from corporate America or the Ivy League or whatever, doing those jobs that they're supposed to do. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Oh boy. So, oh boy, hell of a story. How do you think they took this this uh this situation?
I mean, it's telling that you find out uh the day after he appears on Raw, you find out who fired him and how. Like, I think that I don't like that you couldn't be forthright last week, but you can be forthright now. I don't like how it looks. Um, and again, I'm somebody who wants AEW to succeed. I want more wrestlers to be employed. I want more people to find jobs in these things. I want to be able to tell more stories. I'm very much
Competition
in
is good.
favor of AEW existing, right? But
Mm-hmm.
like, man, I don't like to see the petty. Now listen, WWE does some petty stuff too. Now I can't lie, they do some petty stuff.
Shout out to
Um,
NXT from a few weeks back.
yeah, yeah. They said they smushed the cake in his face on his birthday, like Cameron and Paid in Full. That happened, very much so. But yeah, I'd like to see AEW handle that type of business a little bit differently. I do feel like it was reactionary and not responsive, and I'm not a fan of that when your company is worth so much and should be doing so much. And it's like my man Max is hurt. I hate that because I know how hard he's
Yeah,
working
it's
over
more
there. You know
labor.
what I
Yes.
mean? Like it's a lot, but I really just wish they would stay out of the petty and focus on the story and the wrestling because that's what you're good at. Like just focus on that. We don't need to know everything about Punk, especially if Punk ain't gonna go in there and talk about y'all. Like let's let it be. Let's move on because that's what your top talent wants. So let's just keep it moving.
Yes, yes. And yeah, Punk's promo was everybody was having a good time with it last night as far as the as far as just, selling the story,
Yeah,
just selling the lie. And I think it'll be interesting to see how they incorporate him in this. It's clear that they have their eyes on Seth and him for
mhm.
WrestleMania. Which, listen, you could say what you want about Punk, but oh boy, that is a money match. I don't care what
Yeah,
nobody say.
man. Let Seth get his first main event. Um, Let the main event night one. I think you can really build that story up. Now, I've also heard he might start with Seth, which would be really interesting. Um, but however they play it, I do want to see those two at WrestleMania. Like I think that is night one money match. Absolutely. Um,
Yes.
it's just staying healthy. It's just staying healthy. I worry about Punk, man. Like injury is a skill, or health is a skill. I've always said that. Health is a skill. We've There's a lot of running backs who ain't going to the Hall of Fame because of bad knees and had the talent. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, I'm really, really curious to see if he can stay healthy until then, and if he can, I'm ready for the match, man. I think it's gonna be really, really good.
So I know a lot has been discussed as far as when are we going to get to Punk Roman, and I just wonder. I think you can definitely do that. I just don't. I just wonder if this is going to be a situation where it's a little further down the line, because obviously with the Cody stuff and what's happening there, that feels like that's something that feels like a SummerSlam 2024
Yeah,
situation.
that feels like a non-title. Like yeah, it feels like a grudge match for like next summer. There's no rush for that. I feel like Roman gonna take a good 2 months, 3 months off between WrestleMania and then anyway. Great
Hmm.
way to come back. Punk be on his high horse, whether Punk has a title or has won a big match. And yeah, I think there's a lot of money in that. Like again, WWE doesn't need Punk, but boy, does it make your job easier, right? Like I think if you look at that War Games match, I do think that Finn Balor is still very much a main eventer. I really do think that. Okay.
Hmm.
I think Damian Priest, by virtue of Money in the Bank, is there or is getting there. So you got those two. Then you got Randy Orton, you got Jey Uso, you got Sami Zayn, you got Cody Rhodes, you got Seth. Like, you have a room full of main eventers. And that's
Yeah.
not even talking SmackDown, right? You still got AJ Styles in the tuck. You still got LA Knight in the tuck. Of course, you have Roman Reigns. Who knows what Solo is going to be in 6 months? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
they're
what's up
good.
with Bobby Lashley?
Bobby
We
Lashley
got him
right
in the stoop
there.
chilling right now.
Yeah, Bobby Lashley right there. Gunther right there.
Mm,
Like you got guys. Logan Paul. You know what I'm
Logan
saying?
Paul.
You got
Yeah.
guys you can put into a main event. And I genuinely, if you really, really think about it, outside of that Armageddon match with who was it? Rock,
Oh,
Austin,
Rock, Austin,
Angle,
Rikishi,
Rikishi,
Undertaker, Triple
Undertaker,
H.
and Triple H.
Yes.
Outside of that 6 pack, have they ever had this many guys who can legitimately main event a WrestleMania and it not feel wrong?
Hmm.
Like I think WrestleMania 19, you had HBK, Jericho, Brock, Angle, Rock, Austin right there at the end. You Triple H, like you
Booker
had
T. Yeah, yeah. You
Booker
had a lot of
T,
people, a
you
lot of
had
folks.
guys, but it's about at that level. They got that many guys right now, you know,
Yeah.
and guys who will get there. Like, dude, who knows? Like, I think they're going to slow play it. Who knows what Trick Williams is going to be 6 months from now, right?
Mm.
Heel HBK Mello, like Julius Creek. They got him. They really got Braun Breakers right there.
Yeah.
They got drag,
Dragon. Listen,
man. It's so
that
many.
hard hitting
So many.
bastard. Oh my
Yeah, man.
God.
It's so many, man. Yeah. So they're at a point where Punk is a great option. I think Punk knows he's not the only option, and they're not going to kowtow to him. And I kind of think he likes that. But genuinely, I think that sometimes you can get exactly what you want and see what it does to the people around you and see what it does to you. And I think that being in a situation like this that actually challenges him a little bit, I think is going to be fun to see. I think
Well,
so.
especially with the way that it seems like Triple H is running this thing now. There's a structure where, as you mentioned earlier, people are happy.
Yeah,
People are in good spirits. They love coming to work, and they don't want nothing upsetting that situation. So, I would expect that that Mr. Brooks will be on good behavior for the time being
absolutely.
until whatever time that is. You mentioned a lot of these guys, and there was one guy that I have to mention because over the past 3 weeks to a month, this guy has been absolutely tremendous in setting up his turn and that is one Santos Escobar.
Oh, oh, he's
Please
great.
talk to me about him because I that promo where he just ran down Ray, said, "I hope you get an infection and I hope the surgery don't go well." Then he goes after Carlito. Oh my gosh, this heel turn has been absolutely sensational.
There's I've always said that WWE has been searching for the next Rey Mysterio since before they had Rey Mysterio. Because it's both the most easy and difficult thing in the world. Hey, dress somebody up like a superhero, let them do superhero shit, and watch the money come in. But Rey Mysterio is absolutely a one of one. Nobody's been able to recreate that anywhere ever. But the thing is, Rey Mysterio is so good and so revered. Every Mexican wrestler that has ever been in the ring with Rey Mysterio goes balls to the wall because it's Rey Mysterio.
Mhm.
Like, go look at him and Andrade, their matches on SmackDown. Between Andrade and Ray having them new knees, it's some of the best SmackDown wrestling I've ever seen. I just think there's such a reverence for that guy that when they get around him, it brings out the best in them. And listen, Santos has been smoking it since he had the mask on in NXT, right? But that mask came on, they made him a little drug lord, and he's been out there killing it ever since. Great on the mic, his emotion is amazing and it's fantastic in the ring. And again, like, WCW did that thing where they took masks off guys to show their personality, not to cut them off at the knees. But in this case, I really do think it's benefited him because he is such a personality. He is such a good bad guy. He can't miss, man. They already trust him in the ring with everybody to go whatever length, and he's a personality to go with it. Like, there's never going to be another Rey Mysterio, but they have a bona fide Mexican star in him. Absolutely.
Mm. Oh my gosh. That these last couple of weeks of promos, the match this past weekend, just like the character is unbelievable.
Absolutely.
I just have really enjoyed that, and honestly, just really enjoying the product overall. I
It's
think
fun, man.
it's running on all cylinders, and I actually like, I know people have talked about, like, after Survivor Series there's no, there's a little build up to the Royal Rumble, there's no
Mhm.
PLE in December and stuff like that. I actually like that. I like that in building up stories on TV each week. Now you don't know what's gonna, now you got the Cody Nakamura thing, which I think is interesting
Very
to,
fun. Yeah.
as a placeholder for Cody for the time being. That could you could get some good stuff out of that. Randy going after the bloodline. Where does that go? That's intriguing too. The damage control story. I think that's one that we're gonna see what happens with Bailey, and I'm excited to see where that goes for her. That you could see a face turn coming from her there, which is
That
a
first
long
hug,
time
boy.
coming.
That first hug. Like, they missed out on it so bad the first time around by making her look bad in front of Alexa Bliss, by like having her look dumb in front of Alexa Bliss. But Bailey's been so good with this heel run. Boy, when she flips that switch and goes back babyface, they're gonna sell a million inflatable flailing tubes, man. It's gonna be crazy. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, there's so many good things going on right now. What is, like, one thing in particular that you're looking forward to see, whether it be storyline or potential match, or how do you see something playing out over the next couple of months as we're getting towards the road to WrestleMania?
I think who beats Gunther is really interesting to me. Who they trust to do that. Does it happen before WrestleMania? Does it happen at WrestleMania? And who do they trust enough to do it? I think that's really interesting because you got to imagine he's immediately going to the world title picture after that,
Yeah,
right? No,
honestly, he
no
should be there
rematch.
already.
Yeah, for sure.
That's where I'm there.
So
Yeah.
that's really interesting to me. And who they build up to really be a threat to Rhea is interesting to me too, because I think that while it's been great ingratiating her with the men and making her feel on their level, I do not think they treated her challengers the same way because she has to pull double duty. So who they finally put in front of her to really either dethrone her or push her to that level, I'm really interested in.
I mean, if anything, I'd say give her Becky, give her
Yeah,
Becky a Mania. that'd be the one where, hey, that Charlotte match at WrestleMania was, whew,
One of the best matches I've ever seen. It's amazing.
oh
Yeah.
my gosh. I did It's almost like you didn't want that one to end. So,
Mhm.
and I think Becky could do something similar as far as that's concerned. I mean, you said it. Put Becky in the ring and have her fight. And that's all you
Yeah,
need.
that's all you need. Absolutely.
What she did with the NXT title was tremendous
That's
stuff.
what you want from your vet. That's what you want from your vet, to give a damn and to work hard and to work your kids hard. Absolutely.
Yes.
100%.
So that's something that I'm interested in. I mean, the Gunther thing, as you mentioned, Gunther's done a couple of interviews and he's talked about Brock Lesnar.
Mm.
Once you mention the name,
Oh, that would go crazy. That would
boy,
go crazy. Because you feel like Brock respects him. You know what I mean? Oh,
yeah.
that would go crazy. Yeah. Yeah. We need
Oh
that.
man.
We need that.
Oh yeah. So I mean, yeah, the product's in an interesting place right now, and as you mentioned with AEW, I think the MJF with the labrum, that's a tough one.
Hey, he said he's
It,
going to work through it. So we'll see, man. We'll see. Wish him the best.
yeah, we'll see what happens with Samoa Joe. That's coming up.
Yeah.
That they had a
Gold's
fun
in.
match in Long Island not too long ago.
Mhm.
So I'm excited to see what that. Yeah, wrestling's in a good place, man. You're
Yeah.
you're like you're in the pocket. You're
Yeah, man.
getting to
Everybody's
cover. This is
everybody's doing
awesome.
all right. Everybody's doing all right, and that definitely helps me be able to do this media stuff, to push these stories, to make these people feel heard, because I don't feel like we're running out of stories anytime soon. We're picking and choosing a bit more than we used to. We want to slow it down, but yeah, man, I feel like there's some really good stories to tell. Absolutely.
Oh man, and I guess before we go, it's interesting that something came to mind last week, and this is not wrestling related, but I see all the DC posters that you have back there,
Mhm.
and so we have Superman Legacy. We're seeing a lot of the castings going on, and I think so far the cast for this movie is really impressive. Um, just incredible. Like what are you looking forward to with James Gunn running DC Studios now as its own entity? And specifically, I know like they're gonna put a lot of their eggs into the Superman movie, and as they should. This is a big character, it's a big return. It's fascinating to see. I wanted to get your thoughts.
Some fun, some fun. Like, there's no reason that the Suicide Squad should be more fun than every DC movie before. Let's have fun. This stuff
Yeah,
should be fun. Like, I've been rewatching Justice League Unlimited last like couple of weeks, and it's so fun. It's
classic.
bright and vibrant, and there are stories happening, and there are jokes, and it's just fun. Like, I love that we got the oldest gemstone kid is Jimmy Olsen. I'm fingers crossed that Stephen A. Smith is Perry White.
Oh my
Like,
god.
like, yes, let's have some fun. Let's just have fun. Like,
Yes.
I'm looking forward to it being a bit lighter. Like, I thought Blue Beetle was really fun. I thought that was really cool,
Yeah.
especially if you are somebody who's familiar with like the Mexican nuclear family or the Hispanic nuclear family. You're like, no, this is authentic.
I
Like,
think
this
any
is
part
how
of
it
Latin
is.
culture. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this
That
is great. Like, this is fun. So yeah, I'm looking forward to having a ball, man. Like, I want to get back to enjoying these things, not slaving through them and picking them apart. You know what I mean? Less gray, less taupe. Let's get some bright blues and greens and reds. But I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be clever, and I think we're going to give a damn about the characters again. So yeah,
yes. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing for me. I mean, as we get to the end of December and they're just ushering in this Aquaman movie, and it's just like, all right, man.
let's get
Uh,
there. Yeah,
it is what it is, and yeah, I'm excited. Gunn, I think as we talked about earlier this year with Guardians, he has a deft touch at putting these emotions together and making the characters matter on the
yeah.
screen. And yeah, that's what you look forward to, and the main thing is like he's passionate about making this good. So when you are able to take the time and be creative and all of those things, it's just going to be something really exciting to see. So yeah, just wanted to get quick thoughts on that. And Cam, I wanted to thank you for joining me. This has been a lot of fun as always. Like I said before, I appreciate your work, and let us know where we can find you and your
Yeah,
work.
man. TheRinger.com is where you can find most of my writing. Most recently, talking to Jey Uso about his move to a solo act, kind of the highs and lows of that, his expectations, and just what he's really learned from it. Right before that, talked to LA Knight before Crown Jewel about finally getting to this point, and got something really cool coming up for the end of the year. So stay tuned to that. You can definitely find my writing at Fightful as well. And then on the socials, Seahawk, CEEHAWK, on Instagram and Twitter. I think I just crossed 22.8 on Twitter. It's a
There you
long
go.
way from that 1,000, boy. But, most of it is because of the good work, I like to think. So, yeah, we just want to keep that going. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Appreciate you. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Anthony Canton_3. Follow the show at MC University Pod on all platforms, including Instagram, including YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow our Patreon, patreon.com/MC University Pod. You can get our latest bonus content. We did Hobbs and Shaw. That is out now. Hobbs and Shaw. We continue the Fast franchise. F9 is next for December. And of course, $3 to get into the Discord. And of course, $8 if you want to be a part of a future subscriber mailbag. And of course, with any of these things, we appreciate your support and we appreciate you for talking to us and being in the Discord and all of those wonderful things. So we will be back. I think we'll be back next week for something. I don't know what yet, but we'll figure something out. Me and Jake will cook something up. We're also not too far away from What If. It's just a couple of weeks away. So we will figure out how to cover that in the meantime. So for Cameron Hawkins, I'm Anthony Canton III. This has been Marvel Cinematic University, and we will talk to you next time.